So this is going to be a very interesting episode and something that we've never done before in the history of Founder Talk. And I think we've done overall definitely over 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Barbara's been on the show twice. Once was a lost episode that unfortunately we lost the files for.
It was.
And the second one was really a really great episode. You guys should really go back and listen to it. And then Barbara hit me with an idea, maybe it was like 3 months ago or something. She says, have you ever thought about, instead of you interviewing people and you like to shine the light on other people, what about turning it back on you and having you be the guest? And I said, I've been a guest on a bunch of podcasts, but I've never thought about that concept for my own show. Right. And my first reaction was kind of like, I don't know, would people even care? Would they want to hear about my stuff? And Barbara was like, yes, they would. I think it'd be kind of cool. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. And who knows where this is going to go. Hopefully it's a good conversation and that provides some value. So I'll kick it over to Barbara because you're really running it.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thanks for trusting me with this because I know when I had the idea, you're like, so you want to do the interview? I'm like, of course I do.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned previously, when did we first meet? 2018? It's been a while.
It would have been probably 2020, 2021.
Yeah, it was before COVID.
No, it was after.
Was it after COVID?
Yeah, it was after COVID for sure. Because I had my business, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably late 2020, maybe 2021.
Okay.
It's been 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. And so, I've watched you on LinkedIn and we've stayed connected and I've seen you kind of evolve and change and grow with all the things that you're doing. And you've done some real exciting stuff. And then when you had this podcast and you invited me on, I just love the whole concept of this, right? And the questions you ask, amazing questions, and you really draw all of us out and all of our beautiful things out about us and all the great things that we do. And when I presented this to you, you were pretty positive about it. And I'm pretty excited about this because it's time for you to shine. I think it's time for you to tell your story.
Cool.
So what I'd like to do today is I want to open it up and you tell us, first of all, what exactly do you do besides podcasts? You do a lot, but tell us what you do and how you help your clients.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a dad. I'm a proud dad.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of dadding, there's that. But from a business standpoint, I have kind of two, I would say almost 3 business units as I consider them, but really 2 kind of business models. One is impacts marketing. And so what I do is I help companies, specifically 7 to 8 figure B2B companies, build, develop, grow, coach, train, strategize with their in-house content teams. So a company calls me up, they say, Alex, we've got a marketing person on staff, or maybe we don't really have many people on staff. We don't want to outsource our content to an agency. We want to do it in-house. We want to do it proper. We want to have somebody on site. We want to own it. Maybe we outsource key components, but for the most part, the core of it we want in the business. But we don't have the strategy. We don't have the know-how. We don't have the skills. We don't have anyone to coach or lead around this because you really need leadership when it comes to marketing. You got to know what you're doing and what's working, what's not, what to put money into, what's a waste of time. So we help companies do that and generate revenue, build their brand, help them become the go-to trusted brand in their space. That's Impacts. Podcast Builder is relatively new. The last few months, we just launched that this year. And that really came about. And that business there is helping clients build a podcast that becomes a client acquisition asset for their business and helps them generate an unlimited amount of high quality content that fuels their entire marketing machine. So I ran this podcast for, it's been over 2.5 years now, Founder Talk. Yeah. And what I saw from it was it was a great relationship builder. It was amazing. We got all this great content. We built a community. It's like, I'd have, maybe 3, 4 out of 10 people that came on. We'd start a sales conversation because they'd ask, hey, how do you do this? Or what do you think from this marketing angle? Or we got a team, but it's not really working. Or we'd like to start our own podcast. And I said, I got the studio. I invested all this time, money, and effort into this thing. Why not make it a business? And so that's Podcast Builders. We help them build their podcasts. We help build the strategy. They use our studio, or we can build their own studio or whatever they want. And then we help with all the tedious post-production, behind-the-scenes stuff that companies don't want to deal with. Because as you know, Barbara, you may record an episode and then it just sits idle because it's like, well, how are you getting all the clips, the thumbnails, the posting, the this, the that, and then how do you make sure it turns into real revenue for a company? And so those are the 2 models. And then the other business unit is just Founder Talk Podcast.
Sure. So you actually have a team behind you doing all of this work, and they understand your strategy and your vision for all the clients, and you work with them to make sure that all these things are completed for your new Podcast Builders then.
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So what excites you about this particular area? I mean, it's a really important part of the business community these days of getting your name out there in podcasting and marketing. What excites you about this?
About content marketing or podcast specifically?
About what you do in general. Like, what gets you fired up to get up out of the bed and come and do this every day?
Well, I started creating content in 2019, really, for real. I dabbled in it years before and kind of quit. I didn't have a plan or a roadmap or whatever. And when I started creating content in 2019, it really, within a few months, I could kind of see the difference that it made. I had a side hustle at the time. I was wanting to be a sales coach. I was working my full-time job at corporate America. I'd been 6 years at that company. And I said, I really wanted to try my own thing. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, or at least give it a shot. I would regret it if I didn't.
Yeah.
And I started creating content and putting videos out on LinkedIn and do a lot of skit videos and stuff. And I saw the compounding effect of entertaining, educating, inspiring people through content, having them reach out and want to build a relationship with you, do business with you. And I saw that started to generate revenue. And then 6 months later, which I didn't think it was going to happen this fast, but first client won in February 2020, right before COVID. 6 months later, I've got enough to replace my income at corporate through this side hustle that was just content creation, posting videos on LinkedIn, and then I'd win clients. And started off as sales coaching, but really it turned into helping companies build their LinkedIn and create video content. And so it kind of pivoted the model at that time, but it changed my life. I mean, content literally changed my life. I saw that firsthand. And so when I think about working with companies, I'm like, this can change your life. This can change your business, because ultimately we all have stories, value, insights that we have inside of us and here that most of us just haven't tapped into. We haven't really unleashed that to the world. And so I get excited about creating. And I think the other thing is just from a creative standpoint, I like creating content, and I like doing skit videos. I like doing podcasts. I like what I call unleashing your creative. For me, it's an outlet. It's fun. I would do this even if it didn't bring in any revenue. I would just do it for fun.
Really?
I mean, I'm that into it, And podcasting was something I got into after kind of the short form video experience that I had, years later. I got into podcasting, and what I love, and you're the same way, Barbara, is like just deep, real conversations that you can't have in a 30-second soundbite on TikTok, Right. And so I really fell in love with just having the conversations like this and letting people be a part of it. You guys get to watch and listen. And by the way, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. But you guys get to sit in, and you get to sit on not only this conversation, but any conversation that you want to sit in that's out there online.
Right.
We didn't have that 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You didn't get to sit in and listen to two founders or CEOs or Elon Musk or whoever, you pick your person, and how they thought and their story. And I think there's just so much value and wisdom that can be shared through real conversations.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to some maybe content technical stuff before we get into some of the other questions. So what, for the people that are watching this, obviously they want to understand how content has changed, how all these avenues of communication and sharing have changed. What are some of the things that you've seen change the most since you started doing this?
I mean, probably short form video and podcasting are
Really?
the two most, that have changed the most. Because when I started creating content 2019, I mean, LinkedIn was just kind of a platform no one really thought about for creating content. It was like, It was a networking. It was like, if you're going to find a job, you want to go on LinkedIn. That was what LinkedIn was known for.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, 2020, it really started to change because of COVID. But I think LinkedIn's changed dramatically because of short form video. I think TikTok exploded, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. I mean, that whole short form video wave just really started in 2018, 2019, 2020. I mean, that was really when it started to get like mainstream. And then you thought about creating videos differently, because in 2019, early 2020 even, I was doing like the square videos, or the long 16:9 landscape. That's what video was before.
Yeah.
And then short form vertical video came, and it's like, oh, wow. So we got to change up this format. We got to change up how fast we're able to get people's attention, because of these algorithms and how addicting they are and their interest-based graphs, that you have to, if you don't grab attention in the first second or two, they're gone. So it like changed the formatting, it changed the style, it changed the psychology of how you create a video. I mean, that was the biggest thing. And I think podcasts, over the last 10 years or so have just really popped off, where you see a lot more of them now. And I think that's in a lot of ways, it's kind of AI proof a little bit, because you can't create a podcast with the click of a button through Claude. You can't be like, I'm going to Claude my podcast today. I'm not going to do that. So to me, I think this is something that will live on for a long time.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. It's been a life changer in the last 6 years, 7 years. It's been crazy how it's evolved. And if you don't stay with it, you're so far behind the next day. I mean, within months, everything changes. You're right about that. How have you seen the viewership change, the engagement change since you've started doing this?
Through my own content?
Yeah, just through your own content. How have you seen it change?
There's been a lot of ups and downs, So, I mean, I think when I first got on LinkedIn, it was like a ton of organic reach. The platform was great, but I didn't know what I was doing then, So I was new. I was trying to figure it out. And then I kind of figured it out to a certain degree in 2021. And those next few years were incredible. I mean, I was generating millions of impressions every single week on LinkedIn. And then I built out TikTok and got that to 20,000 followers. And I built out my YouTube page and got LinkedIn to 47,000 followers. And it was like, it was rolling. I mean, rolling. And of course, leads are coming in pretty hot because of that, because I'm creating content not just for vanity. I'm trying to deliver a core message that I have that help businesses grow with marketing. And then 2024 hit, 2025 hit, and it got tough because all of a sudden I went from millions of impressions every single week on LinkedIn to tens of thousands.
Really?
Maybe 50,000. I mean, it dropped dramatically. And it seemed like overnight, even though it kind of happened a little bit over the course of a few months.
Sure.
But I poured everything I had into that platform. And then all of a sudden it was like that for the first time, people talk about don't build on rented platforms. Like make sure you have your own media company and that type of stuff. And I always believed in that. And when people would say that, I'd be like, yeah, smart, But I never experienced it firsthand. I never experienced, holy cow, I built up this whole brand and following and engagement, impressions, and everyone's watching my content and all the work I'm putting in is just so worth it. And then it was almost like the rug was pulled underneath you. And it was like, whoa, because it was not only the views that dropped. If you imagine the leads were up here when the impressions engagement, well, when they came down, the leads came with it, and so it didn't go to nothing, but it went significantly lower. And so it was a big moment in my business because I would say probably back then, 60, 70% of my clients came from LinkedIn.
Wow.
I was figuring out how to run LinkedIn ads at the time. So that kind of got me through a little bit of the storm where I got pretty good at running LinkedIn ads. I was doing thought leadership ads because I was just I knew good organic content there and I'd put some paid behind it and then we'd win clients that way. So that was kind of keeping me going.
Yep.
And then I stopped running ads. It kind of stopped working as well after a certain time. And the LinkedIn organic just never picked back up. And so it forced me to go, shit, dude, you got to go like an entrepreneur has to do. You've had to do it many times in your business, right? We all have. You got to adjust. And so I had to figure out what's the other thing and how do I not build on something that is rented land? How do I build on something that's mine, that's ours, that we own? And that's really where the podcast really started to get bigger. And I was like, you know what? I'm going all in on this podcasting thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what changed in 2025?
To ask LinkedIn, it's, definitely, I think it's a couple different things. Number one, they definitely moved to a lot more pay to play. So like if you look at Instagram, if you look at TikTok or Instagram, Facebook for sure, those are two platforms that if you try to grow organically today, you can, but it's way harder than it was 5-10 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
So every platform kind of goes through that period. And TikTok had its big moment in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 even, where it was like there just wasn't as many creators on the platform yet, but there was all these consumers starting to go there.
Okay.
So it was the early mover advantage, right?
Sure.
And that's what we had on LinkedIn from 2018 to 2023, 4-ish, really.
Yep.
And so it was like once that wave kind of caught up and now it's like everyone knows they should post on LinkedIn. So you have a lot more content, it's more saturated. And then on the other side, LinkedIn's like, hey, we want to start generating more revenue. So let's really push these ads. That's kind of my theory. They won't tell you directly what happened, but it hurt everyone. It wasn't like it was just an isolated incident with ours.
No, not at all.
Our clients saw it, it was just like, it was a wave effect that everyone saw.
Yeah. So what about the future then? Where do you think the future is for all of this? Since, this is your space and you have a bunch of people watching you who are really interested. Like, where do you think this is going as far as the space goes?
I think there's a couple really interesting things happening with marketing right now. Number one is the obvious one is that you have an AI wave coming into the space. And AI is great for marketing from a certain standpoint. Like, for example, I can create a thumbnail now that I would have had to pay a designer to do.
Yep.
I can create that same thumbnail in 10 seconds, with good strategy prompt, that type of stuff. It's helped with video editing. We could chop up all 3 of these camera angles in 57 seconds, and that would have taken an hour for someone going through and trying to do it.
Sure.
The flip side of that is you're going to have people trying to use AI to do all their content, and it's not going to work. You're not going to have the same point of view, the same perspective, the personality. It's not going to make videos for you, even though it can make avatars and things like that. But I think the more AI we have coming into the space, and the more people start posting more content, because we're not going to be posting less content. It's more and more. More companies are starting to get on board, and more thought leaders are starting to, CEOs. So it's saturation. And then on top of that, you're now adding on AI, which makes it, I just tell it a quick prompt, and then it writes my LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
I can give it a video script, and now there's a video avatar. I can, it's all these things. And so more people naturally, because of the progression of social and content, and this AI wave thing. And so saturation. Sure. And we're already feeling it. And so what you have to think about now as a company is like, how do we separate ourselves from everyone else? And it's always been that way, but I think it's more important now than ever.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why I think a podcast is one of those things potentially if you run a good show, because you can't do this with AI. We're not going to you're not going to want to listen to 2 AI agents talk about, they don't have a life. They don't have experiences. There's no stories. There's certainly they could educate you. They could do research and then educate you. That's fine. But we're not going to listen to conversations with them. I don't think, at least. And then the other thing is just like being the content. I talk a lot about that, is showcasing the behind the scenes, talk about the things you're going through, record yourself doing the things that you're already doing. Yeah. And then the creative side, the skits, trying to think outside the box with how you deliver your message. I tested this out. It's the last thing I'll say on this. I tested out a really important, I think, lesson in marketing on LinkedIn just 2 weeks ago. So it was an experiment. One post was a text post talking about how you can't use Claude to do all your content.
Right.
And it was a good, well-written post, and it did okay. And then I was like, let me take that same message and let me deliver it with video, and let me add some edutainment. So instead of just writing the post out, I'm going to kind of act it out. Yep. I'm going to enter in a story and really tell the story. And it over doubled the performance.
Wow.
Same exact message, doubled the performance online. Yep. That's the power of, it's not just what you say with content, it's how you deliver it.
I think I love the term edutainment.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's really what it is. Because when I'm listening to you speak about this, my first mind went to, wow, viewership, it's just tiring. Fatigue. Yeah. Viewership fatigue. But if you add in edutainment, it takes that fatigue away and it lightens up the brain a little bit to pay attention, where the other stuff just starts getting boring after a while. It's the same stuff. And I think you're right. One of the things that I've seen on LinkedIn a lot is, because I just kind of watch what's going on, especially in the leadership field. I'm like, same stuff. It's just regurgitation of the same stuff. So how do you make it different? And I think that's where someone like you coming in and sharing that different space and the ideas around there, and to have that creative mind, is absolutely critical, without a doubt. So kudos to you for seeing all of it and watching all of it. And I think maybe in a different way than some of the other marketing experts that they call themselves out there truly do.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of them are also regurgitating the same stuff everyone else is saying.
Totally.
And it doesn't always fit.
Yeah.
Is there someone or something that you follow in the marketing space that creates questions for you, opens up your mind or ideas? Is there someone, or do you kind of really rely on yourself and working with your
I would say
clients?
I would say that I study what works and what doesn't all the time. I wouldn't say there's one person that I look to for marketing stuff, but for example, I was just listening to a young girl that's done incredibly well on YouTube. I don't even know her name. I just saw an interview with her. It was like a podcast interview.
Okay.
And she was talking about how she has done so well on YouTube and how to do long form and short form and storytelling and that type of stuff. And and then I went and checked out her videos. And when I'm looking at her videos, I don't really care what she's talking about.
Sure.
It's more like Mr. Beast entertainment. Follow me today as I do this, or let me try to make, something in 10 seconds, or, it's more, I think her demographic is a little bit younger, and that's fine. That's hers. But even though I'm not interested in the content, I want to know, what is she doing though? Like, what is she doing in the first second or two? How is she retaining attention, retention over time?
Sure.
Because when you think about a short form video or a long form, even like what we're doing with this podcast, what you have to do with content is tell a story. And you start with a question or a point of view, or you're introducing some type of plot. And then what you're doing is you're getting people to say, here's the question, or here's the story, the beginning. There's some conflict in between. There's some conflict in the middle. There's a gap in curiosity. What's going to happen? How's this going to play out? Is this going to go well? Are they going to choke? Are they going to win? Are they going to lose? Just like we do with sporting events, right? Like, and then there's some type of resolution at the end where it's been resolved. And so if you think about your content or your podcast, like we opened up, it's like, hey, we're doing something we've never done before here. Whoa, this is kind of crazy, right? Flipping the script. Barbara's going to interview Alex on his own show. This is different. Hey, how is this going to go? I don't know. You got to stay tuned. This might go terribly. We don't know. It might go great and you might get a ton of value from, but either way, you see, we're opening up that story. We're entering the story, and then we're feeding people through it. And there's some conflict and tension in between, and then we resolve it. And that's how you got to think about your content. Every piece that you do, are you inviting somebody into a story or a message or a question?
Sure.
And are you answering that question at the end of the story?
That's all like wildly interesting. And obviously you are well versed in all of this. There's no doubt. But I want to flip it just for a little bit.
Let's flip it.
Because I think all of this is representing the work that you do with your clients.
Yeah.
And not just the 100+ podcasts that you've done, but before that, all the clients that you've had. And you have a lot under your belt. You have a lot of experience under your belt. Who would you say primarily your clients are? What's the demographic, would you say?
Professional services, 7 to 8 figure B2B companies.
Okay.
That would be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And through all these conversations, you must have learned a lot and you've seen a lot. Can you share maybe some of the top lessons? Or let's think of it this way. Man, if you're in this clientele group, these are 3 things just don't do. Like, what have you learned not to do? And then we're going to go learn what to do. But what have you learned? What have you seen were some of the biggest mistakes that they make when they're looking to get their message out there, and you're listening to them talk and you're really following their thought process? What are some things that you've seen? You're going to go, ooh, red flag.
I would say the biggest mistake that companies make with marketing, content marketing, is they're trying to be safe, guarded, and buttoned up. That would be probably one of the number one things. I mean, one is just they don't do it. They're not out there. They're scared to put themselves out there. And there's some real fear and insecurity to that, even with very successful CEOs and founders. They get in their own head. They're wondering, oh, is it going to be good? Are people going to care? Are they going to think I'm a know-it-all? I mean, there's a mental hurdle that people have to get past. That I'd actually say that's number one.
Okay.
Number two, when you get past that, it's like, are you willing to take a stance? Are you willing to have a point of view, a perspective that's different than what everyone else thinks? Are you willing to be a little bit vulnerable, to share your stories, to share your insights, your experiences, what you're going through, what's working, what's not? So many people, and you see this in CEOs and founders, they just have the wall up. It's like, I don't want to push the boundaries. I don't want to ruffle the feathers. I don't want to say anything too. And I'm not asking people to be disrespectful or be vulgar, of course. But you've got to be able to push it. You have to be able to push it. And for a lot of people, they go back to their safe zone. Well, this is safe. This is comfortable. This is what we've always done. This is not going to ruffle any feathers whatsoever. And I would argue, if you're not going to ruffle feathers with your content, who are you moving? You're not moving anybody. You're not making an impact. Because if everyone can just sit there and watch your video and go, yeah, I already knew that or agreed. If 100% of people say that, how did you inspire anybody? How did you move them down the line to become a potential client? You didn't. You're going to have to say something that someone goes, I don't know if I agree with that. Or that's a different take than I have. Or I actually had a different experience at, or I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you need kind of that pendulum to swing a little bit. Otherwise, you're just not saying anything unique. So those would be 2 big ones.
Okay. Well, I want to go back and talk a little bit more about that. And I want to talk about the fear of putting yourself out there. Because, putting yourself out there in 2018 was different than putting yourself out there in 2020 and 2021, because we had some just definite, huge cultural shifts in the United States.
Yeah.
And now we have these political divisions. I guess you want to put it nicely that way. There's a lot of things going on out there. There's so much being shifted in the culture there, and there's right, wrong. There's not a lot of coming together. How do you help your clients overcome that fear when it's not just a fear of putting yourself out there and sharing your story, which is scary to begin with, but now you're putting it out there in this type of environment? How do you help them over that hurdle?
I think it's a journey that you have to sort of be ready to go on by the time you work with us. But I think you have to really want it, right? You have to really, I think like a lot of things, you have to say, I'm ready and willing to go on this journey.
Okay.
And I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to mess up. I'm willing to make mistakes and learn from it. Because even though I can coach and train you, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fumble through your words, or you're going to have a podcast that doesn't go the way you wanted it to.
Sure.
I do still today. And I've done this thousands of times, right? So I think first and foremost, like, hey, are you ready? Ask yourself, like, are you ready? Are you ready to put yourself out there and be willing to be judged? Because you're going to get judged.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself out in public.
Yeah.
And you're basically, and it is tough from that standpoint because you're making this art and then you're just putting it out in public and people are going to just judge you right on that. And it's sometimes hard to hear that your stuff's not good, or that it didn't land home, or that maybe it just didn't get any views because no one watched it, right? That hurts people's egos and it makes them feel less. And they shouldn't, because they're new at this anyways. And you're not your content.
Right.
You're a person. You're a mother, father, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, sister, whatever, brother. You're a human being first. You are not your content, even though I like to say be the content.
Right.
But so I think there's that's a real hurdle for people to get through, for sure, because you're not going to find instant success with anything, but you got to be willing to really battle through that.
So someone sits across from you and they say, Alex, I'm ready. I'm so ready. I'm ready to go forward. How do you pressure test that? Because the words that we say doesn't always match what we're willing to do underneath. How do you pressure test that to make sure that they are?
I think you go back to the why. Why do you want to do this? And this is more like probably before I sign them. This is more of a sales conversation. Hey, why not just not do this? Like, you're going to get on camera, you start a podcast, go through all this stuff, you're going to pay us. Why not just not do it? And I like to see real conviction. I like to see them say something like, I think if we don't do this, we're not going to get to where we want to go as a business. Or I think I've got a message that I want to share that is so important. And I think by not sharing that, I am holding back from the people I can serve. Or, something kind of like that, right? It doesn't need to be like pie in the sky, but just there needs to be something that's convicting versus just, well, I think we should probably do this, right? It's kind of like, well, that's probably not going to last long.
Yeah.
Like, you got to really, my best clients are the ones that like, I really believe in this, Alex. Like, I don't convince them to like, oh, how do you convince me I should do video? It's like, I'll just go work with somebody that already believes in the format and putting out video and telling their story and that type of stuff. Like, but you got to be convicted. And the one thing I'll say is that advice that, because you're talking about how do you get past this, advice that stuck with me back in my corporate days is Drew, a manager that was in a manager position. I was early on starting. Okay. He said, Alex, when you remember your purpose, you'll forget your fears. And I just always kind of come back to that. Yeah. And it's easier said than done, because there's times I've been on stages talking to hundreds of people and it's like, I'm nervous, man. I'm like, like my nerves are going. I'm getting ready to talk in front of a lot of people. I haven't done that a million times. And you remember your purpose. You remember, why am I doing this in the first place? I want to grow my business. I want to make an impact. I want to inspire others, whatever those reasons are. And there's a combination of reasons. I want to show my kids that what they can accomplish and what they, I want to leave something for them. You have to remember that, I think. And I wish I had a really like a silver bullet answer of like, this is how you get past it. But it is dealing with insecurities. It is dealing with fears. It is dealing with, it's going deep. You're kind of looking deep inside the soul at that point.
You're going to the heart.
You're going to the heart, right? Yeah. And for some people, it's not a big deal. And they're like, that's cool, man, whatever. Other people, like, really affects them. And they overthink it all the time. Yeah. And it's a tougher hurdle to get past. But if they're willing and able, and they're willing to fight through it, I can get them through it. But if they're not willing to fight, or they don't want it bad enough for the right reasons, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I would imagine that exposure for some, because you really are exposing yourself and you're allowing people to excavate into your soul, as
Yeah.
you said. That's got to be really terrifying for a lot of people. And as you said, not everyone's going to love you, right? You're
They
going to get
definitely
some
won't.
negative statements, but that's actually not a bad thing. That means that people are at least thinking about it, right? For sure.
Yeah.
So once you start working with someone and they're convicted, their conviction is there, not convicted. Their conviction is there, and they are ready to move forward. And man, their heart is there, and their purpose is telling you everything. Where does it go awry? Where does it go off track? Now, it doesn't always go off track, but when you see it go off track, when does it go off track? Why does it go off track?
Almost always it's because of, and this will be the excuse, even though there's deeper issues, but it'll be time. It'll be a time commitment. But really what that is, if you peel it back, it goes back to the fear and insecurity.
Yeah.
So they'll say something like, I don't have time this week, or we created something, but I didn't really like it, and so I'm not going to scrap it. It typically goes back to that. But that's really the only place that it goes severely wrong, is they're just not willing to show up.
Sure.
Because if you're willing to show up, hey, we can get through it. We can fight through it. We can, get past a bad recording day or not so good of a podcast or whatever it is. But as long as they're willing, and I've not worked with anyone that really tried, showed up, put in an effort, and it just didn't work anything.
Really?
I've yet to have that happen. Right. And I've had clients that signed up, said they were going to do it, and didn't follow through with the training, coaching, whatever it might be.
Sure.
And it didn't work out, unfortunately. Yeah. And that's going to happen, I think, with any clients that you have in a business.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the people that have put in the work and showed up, they've done well with it.
Okay. So you've seen a lot of success with those that show the commitment and stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Is there a methodology that you have for holding people accountable? Because, this is your business too, right? And we always like to say, adults should be accountable, but on the other hand too, you want to show success. Are there certain things that you do to help hold people accountable so that they do show up when they're supposed to?
I mean, I think I just try to have real conversations with people.
Yeah.
I think I try to, obviously we have meetings and we talk through things, and they show up here to record if they're working with us on Podcast Builders. So I just try to call things out when I see them, if they're not right. If they're skipping a couple sessions, or if I can sense they're not quite feeling right or something's off, I'll call them. I'll talk to them. I'll set a meeting. We'll have a chat. I think that's really the only way to get past that stuff, is just have an honest conversation and just say, hey, what's going on? How you feeling? What's going on? You haven't been really up for the last couple of sessions or whatever it is. And, again, you peel back a couple layers. Time, this, I got other priority, this, that. Yeah. And I kind of go back to hey, is this a priority for you or not? And if it's it really is, let's work through it then. Okay. We'll work through the time thing. We'll work through this. And then, usually there's some coaching around the insecurities and fears.
Yeah.
And I remind them, I maybe show them an old video of when I first started and how goofy my stuff was, or how I got, 7 posts in a row on LinkedIn and got 0 likes, 0 comments, 0 nothing, and how no one listened to my podcast when I first started. I started in my bedroom with a wireless mic and a smartphone,
Yeah.
Everything takes time, and you can't, it's really easy to look at someone who's been doing it for years at a decently successful level, regardless of what arena you're in. And it's easy to look at and say, wow, this is way ahead of where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I used to do that too. And I still have moments like that where I see people that are doing things above where I am.
Yeah.
And it's man, their stuff looks good, or man, they really got this down. God, how are they so consistent?
Yeah.
And you're comparing yourself at the bottom of the mountain to someone that's at the top. And it's just not even a fair comparison, So, yeah.
Yeah, that can tear apart your ego pretty quick too, can't
it? It does. Yeah. It makes you feel shitty. And then you go back to what you're good at and what's safe.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So that's why people retreat back. So they'll come out of their shell, their turtle shell. They'll start creating content. It won't go well miraculously the first 7 posts.
Yeah.
And it'll hit their ego. They'll be like, shit, not everyone loves my stuff right away. And maybe it's not as good as it's going to be 6 months from now. Retreat back, get my ego back. Hey, I'm a business owner. I'm successful. I'm this, I'm that. This is what I've been doing the last 10 years. That stuff I'm pushing aside didn't make me feel good. Yep. I don't like it. I don't like being rejected. I'm successful. I'm not a rejection person. And that's kind of how the psychology works when you're creating content and you're starting off. And I've seen it with CEOs of $50 million companies, people that you would think wow, they got to have all the confidence in the world. Some of them do. but some of them really struggle. Like we all struggle with that to a certain degree.
Sure. Hard to be a human, isn't it?
It's tough. Yeah.
It's really
It's a
hard.
blessing, but it comes with some challenges, you know?
Yeah, sure does.
Yeah.
You talked about having these really like deep conversations and real conversations with founders and people who sit with fear, and you've been doing this for a while. So you've been working with founders for a long time and business owners of all different sizes. What have you discovered about founders that has surprised you with all the people that you've spoken with? I mean, because you talk to so many people, there's got to be some things that you're kind of like, wow, I maybe didn't expect to understand this about founders, or this trend kind of surprised me. What have you learned over the years?
Well, I think the insecurity thing was one of them, where I feel like if
Really?
you had a certain level of success, that you would be confident to put yourself out there. I think that was definitely one. But I would say another one is that when you look at entrepreneurs and founders, and I've studied a lot, and I've had a lot of different founders as clients, from 8-figure, 7-figure, 6-figure, all over the place. And the one thing I just notice about the ones that are very successful is like they picked a good business model that is scalable, and then they just kept going. They were just relentless. Like they didn't give up.
Yeah.
They kept growing. They kept pushing forward. And I think I always thought there was some kind of like magicalness to a founder of a $50 million company or $20 million, whatever it is. I was like, they must be doing something that is just so wildly different than who I am. And I think this podcast was a good awakening, where it's like I'd sit across from a founder that had 100 people or 50 or whatever it is, or sold a company for X amount of millions. And I'd sit across from them and be like, they're not much different than me. They have a different skill set. They have a different business, but I have a different business and different skill set.
Right.
And we each have pros and cons, and we can learn from each other. And that's what's great about these conversations. But I would kind of be like, yeah, they're not that different. Like they're not. And I think that's what we have to do. We see people, we see the accomplishments and the accolades, and so we see people online and we think, they must be so much different than me and you,
Yeah, right.
And then you meet them in real life and it's like, yeah, they're kind of just a regular human. Like they kind of just worked really hard at this one thing.
Yeah.
And they sacrificed a lot of other things in the process.
Yeah.
And they got to where they're at. But we have a lot more in common, I think, than people think. I'm curious your thoughts on the insecurity, thing. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right. And I think we hide behind ego, anger, overestimation of confidence. Sometimes it's positivity. Sometimes this whole thing around kindness, we have to be really kind. I think that's all kind of like a shield that we stand behind. And it's good to be kind. It is. But sometimes that also becomes a shield that we hide behind because we don't want to really step out and share ourselves. It's a way to hide. And I think I see that a lot as well. And I call that, I love how you set it up, because what you're talking about is how we perceive other people, how we perceive successful people, how we perceive what's going on around us, and how incorrect we are. And once we sit down with these folks, we realize how wrong we are. That, like you said, they're just working really hard at the model that they picked.
That's it.
They have chosen not to be pulled aside on 10 different things.
Yep.
And I appreciate you saying that. And you came after me in a very nice way. I had a post and you're like, hey, it sounds a lot like AI and it's kind of boring. Yeah. I'm like, okay, thanks. Right. But it really had me step back and think like, how do I want to be perceived? Right. How do I want to be perceived? And then through the whole process, and because I watch your content, I watch what people say, right?
Yeah.
I keep an eye on you. What I've come to the conclusion of my own self is I had too many things I wanted to do, and it's not contributing to my business. So what am I going to stop doing? What has to go out? What has to streamline? What has to, this is just my business. And just recently just cut a bunch of stuff out and said, this is like a passion project, but it's not a business project. It's not going to get me where I want to go. So we're going to stop doing this. We're going to stop doing that. I sat down with my business administration lead and I said, stop doing this, get rid of that. We're not focusing on that. And she's like, I'm in the middle of it. I'm like, I don't care. We're not doing it anymore. Right? So stay focused. So you've seen this whole focus.
So that's a superpower, by the way, with that, what you just described there is focus.
Tell me about that.
Because as an entrepreneur, you can do the greatest thing you have is freedom to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
The most challenging thing you have is the freedom to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that is literally it.
Yeah.
And so it's like your ability, and I remember having that conversation too, but your ability to lock in on the thing that you need to do that's going to make you successful, and do that day in and day out, and that's all you do. And anything else that comes up, unless it's part of your vision in your life and what you want to accomplish, personal, professionally, it's not. It's not there. It's not a priority, right? It's not A time. It's maybe B time, weekend time, whatever else it is.
Yeah.
That is a superpower of being able to really hone that in. And I think that takes practice. It's a muscle you got to work. I mean, I have this document now I printed out with like my top 3 areas that I'm going to focus my time, my goals for the week, where I need to spend that time. It's all laid out.
Yep.
And so every day I'm looking at that thing saying, how am I doing on my goals? Where am I spending my time? Is it in one of these 3 buckets? If not, why?
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. Yeah. It's the people who have become successful. If you want to look at athletes or business people or anybody, they have locked the hell in.
Yeah.
And they just beat it until they were amazing at it.
Yeah. I remember stories of like Michael Jordan, and I've also seen it in stories of, high school athletes where they go to the gym and they just shoot buckets. They shoot 3-pointers over and over and over again, 1,000 a day, 2,000 a day, whatever. They just shoot buckets just so that it becomes such a natural motion. The muscle memory, you can't even fight it. It just becomes you. So you work with a lot so I love the superpower. Thank you for sharing that. That's it's just a gorgeous thing to say. A superpower is getting focused. When you're working with your clients, because you don't just do podcasts, you coach them and you're helping them really become who they want to be. How do you help them get focused on that? Because I can't imagine that's a common thing to be super focused all the time, because we have a lot of distractions. We have family, we have things we like to do. We want to take care of our health, all those types of things. How do you help with them stay focused?
Well, I think they sort of come to us to get focused.
Really?
I think because they're all over the place. There's a lot of uncertainty. They're not sure what to do. There's a bunch of different platforms. They're like, hey, focus us. What should we be doing? Where do we spend our time? What's the system? Who do we need in place? But I think that's kind of when they work with us, that's sort of what you're getting, as part of it is you're getting the clarity, the strategy, the focus.
Okay.
From there, it becomes then coaching them on skills and how do we develop this and how do we make better content, that type of stuff. How do we drive revenue through the content? But yeah, it's a big one. I would say if there's 2 big things, it's focus and then the fear and insecurity and doubt, the self-doubt.
Yeah.
Like if you can get focused, and you're right, Michael Jordan's a great example. There's a bunch of great examples and I don't want to confuse this with like, oh, talent doesn't matter. Talent does matter.
Sure.
It definitely matters. Yeah. Like if me and you are going to go try to be Elon Musk tomorrow or Michael Jordan tomorrow, like good luck. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? And it wouldn't happen in our 20s probably either. We're just not meant to go on that path. And that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their own path. So talent matters, but there's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of founders, entrepreneurs that could do amazing things. It's who can apply themselves in the right area with the right amount of focus, and they're willing to push past the insecurities, the fears, the things that knock a lot of people down.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to fail a lot. I mean, I've failed a lot in marketing, and I've had my ego built up where like, oh my God, Alex, you're the greatest ever. You're unstoppable. Everyone loves your stuff. And I've seen it came crashing down.
Like 2025.
To where,
like
2025 on LinkedIn, or on TikTok or on YouTube or whatever. Pick your medium, pick your channel. I've had it happen. I've gone through ups and downs, and it hits you, and it's like, damn, who the hell am I? I mean, because it was part of your identity, even though you have other things.
For sure.
So it's like, and now I'm going through this like cocoon coming out, butterfly moment where I've been in this cocoon the last several months. I've been very focused on the podcast, and that's gone amazing. But from a video short form standpoint, I haven't really been as creative or into it. I've kind of been doing stuff, but not at the level I know I'm capable of. And I'm kind of having this coming out, like, I want to start doing this at a high level again. I want to kind of rebirth myself. And I have doubts going through that too. I'm like, man, am I, can I do this like this, that, I know I can if I put my mind to it, but I'm like, who am I as a creator anymore? Like what's my identity? Like do I want to spend time doing that? Or would I rather go harder on the podcast and just do that? Like I always wrestle with this. And I always say the difference is not that I don't have doubts or insecurities
Yeah.
about creating content and putting myself out in the public, I do just like anyone else does. I just still hit the post button.
Mm.
And that's the
Yep.
part. If you can just still hit the post button
Yeah.
and say, all right, I created this thing. I think it's good. It's a day later now. Kind of doubting it. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I don't necessarily doubt myself, but I doubt what I'm doing at times.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is this post any? I don't know. I'm like, let's just post it. And I think when you can get over the fact that like, hey, not everyone's sitting around a campfire, like watching, waiting for you to, post your piece of content. I think again, it's all you like. We
It's
just
Alex's
we just
stuff
think
again.
people are sitting around in like tribes, just like waiting for like, let's just see what he's gonna do today. What's he gonna post today? It's like people are busy with their own shit.
Yeah.
And that was one of the lessons I learned as a founder. I was like, when no one cared when I was sleeping on a mattress on a floor in a 1-bedroom apartment with my daughters, then I didn't have a business and I was going through a divorce and I was in a challenging time.
Yeah.
No one cared then. And I don't want to say no one cared, but like it didn't matter to people that I didn't have stuff.
Right.
And then once I became more successful and we did upgrade our living situation and the business grew and we were financially comfortable.
Yep.
It didn't matter to people then either. Like it
Right.
just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just people are consumed with their own lives, their own family, what they're doing. They're not paying attention to you. And that's one of the things I try to instill in my clients. It's like, people aren't focused on you. They're just not. For a millisecond, maybe when they see something, then they're on to the next thing. So if they don't care about it, then why do you do? Why do you? Why are you focused on somebody else that has nothing to do with your life?
Right. Or may come by and make a side comment.
Yeah.
That they just stopped by for a second, made a comment and left, and you'll never see them again. But do you let that destroy your process, right? And I like what you said about how hard it is as a founder, as what we do, right? And the thought that came to my mind is it's a lot easier for folks like you and I who work with founders and work with business people to coach them to not have the same reactions and feelings that you and I deal with every day.
Yeah.
Like we know how easy it is to sit on the sidelines and say, but look, you can do this. And as you said, like they're not sitting around waiting for your content to show up. They're not going to like all come after you. The tribe's not sitting there to come throw spears at you.
Yeah.
They're doing their other stuff, right?
Right.
So it is a very interesting place to sit. And it's an interesting place for us as our own business owners that we struggle as well.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is the man in the arena. And it's basically, I don't know if you heard it before, but was it Roosevelt who said it? He's basically saying like, if you're in the arena, don't mind yourself or be bothered by the people that are in the stands, throwing drinks at you or throwing popcorn at you because you're not doing as good as they think you should do, or you made an ass of yourself, or it didn't go, your performance wasn't on that day. They're not in the arena. You are. Your blood, sweat, and tears are in this thing. And so whenever people say stuff and if you look at all the hate comments that you get, you go to their profile, 0 videos, 0 production. They're not doing anything, right?
Or they're anonymous.
They're anonymous. Yeah. They're nowhere. And that's
Yeah.
so typical because someone that is out there in the arena, putting themselves out there, blood, sweat, and tears every day. They've built it for years. They went through the ups and downs. They're not commenting on your shit and hating on you.
Right.
They're busy building their own stuff. And they know what it's like to be building something and struggling. And they got love for you in most cases. They're not trying to bring you down. And so it's like, I just never forget that if you look at someone that is dropping some hate in your content, always be mindful that person they're probably going through a bad place or a bad time.
Yeah.
They're in a bad place.
Yeah.
Because to have that type of negative energy towards a random stranger, to go out of your way, lose your focus, and go to some hateful comment on social media, it's like, you're probably the same way. I would just never think to do that ever.
Never.
We could disagree. I could be like,
Absolutely.
hey, that's a stupid tag. I don't like that. I disagree with that. Whatever it is, you try to be respectful, but just to hate for no reason whatsoever, just to shit on somebody's parade, it's not useful. It's not good.
I think that's a really good perspective. And I always say, I'm just so glad I'm not sitting in their shoes because I don't ever want to feel like that. I really don't.
Exactly.
And that's exactly the truth of what you said is have some empathy for them. You don't have to sit in empathy for them, but just have a moment of empathy and walk away.
It helps you get through the moment, I think,
Absolutely.
especially when, someone cuts you off on the road. It's like your first reaction can be like, F that dude or gal, it's like, what are they're crazy,
Yeah.
But that doesn't serve you. How is that going to help you in your day and your spirit, your energy? It's not. And it's not going to help them either because they don't even know you're doing it. So it's like, just say, hey, maybe they're on their way to go see a sick family member. Maybe something
Exactly.
terrible just happened. Maybe they got fired. Maybe, who knows? And I'm not making excuses. You shouldn't be an asshole ever.
Yep.
But just let that energy go. I think that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Like, let the energy go. Don't carry that weight just because they cut you off or they left a hateful comment. You let it go. Don't give them the power or the ammo that they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I share a quick story about that?
Please, yeah.
So I was going down the road, Eola Road.
Okay, yeah, I know what I thought. Yeah.
Yep. And a van came up next to me. I was in the turn lane and not much space in front of me, but this person was bent on getting in front of me. And I'm finally just fine, just get over. I don't care. I don't care if there's 30 cars here, just get in line, just go. So we get up. He pulls out into the intersection. He's turning left, and a car comes from the other direction, does not stop, slams into him. And I just remember watching his van. I can see his face to this day, the terror on his face as he's spinning around after that car hit him. And I'm thinking, you know what? Sometimes these things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And God, for some reason, I'm a faithful person. I'm like, God was watching over me in that moment. And I don't know why God put him in that situation and not me. But sometimes, they're trying to prevent something. Maybe that God's trying to prevent you from getting in an accident. Let him over. Take your time. Do something else. But just a side story.
Yeah.
You can cut that out later.
No, we'll leave it in. We're not cutting anything. I would say, some people say things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think you could definitely say that. I also think you could say, maybe not everything happens for a reason, but you can't always find a reason in things.
That's true. I love that.
So either way you look at it, there's a spin.
There's a spin, absolutely. So you've worked with founders for a long time. Have founders changed over the last 5, 6, 7 years when you've been working with them?
I don't think they've fundamentally changed.
No.
I think that technology, AI, I think the way we build businesses is a little bit different. The way we approach marketing, the way we think about growing the business. I haven't seen a fundamentally different, change in them. Have you?
I feel that people are more stressed now because of the external environment. So I find that there are more mental health issues with folks as they deal with anxiety. I see more anxiety coming to the surface.
That's probably true.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Why do you think that is?
I think COVID was part of it. So I know that one of the mental health facilities that I work with, they've been gearing up since 2021 for all the influx of children coming in because of the impact of COVID, as well as the dynamics of social media and the level of hate capability. And, there's just so much hate on social media, you can find it pretty easily. And the algorithm, once you find it, will keep sending it to you.
For sure.
That business leaders are constantly struggling with the environment that they have to deal with, because then also their people are coming in with the same anxiety. So in my personal experience have they changed so much? Maybe not, but the environment has changed around them that is causing them to behave in a way that maybe they wouldn't have 5 or 6 years ago. And they are now leading people who are coming in and behaving in ways that they may not have behaved 5 or 6 years ago because of all the just tremendous changes. And some of the things that we used to, and I'm not saying things are all bad that have changed, but a lot of stuff has changed, right? A lot of things we've become much more accustomed to saying something negative to someone as opposed to talking things out. We lash out, and we're finding that within the work environments now too. So have they changed? No, but everything has changed around them, which is causing them to respond differently.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say, I think, 5 years, I'm trying to think. I've only been an entrepreneur for 6 years, so I don't feel like it's past that. I wouldn't have good data on just what people are like. But I think the way I see it, I think in general, we've just become more on 24/7
True. Yep.
than it was when I started in corporate. It was just like, yeah, obviously there was the internet, we had phones and stuff, but it was just less like every second something's going.
Yeah.
And I think that is a risk that it's a strength from a standpoint is you can do things whenever you want.
Yep.
It's a risk that you got to unplug. You
True.
have to just, go for the walk, play some pickleball. I'll do that later today. I love playing pickleball and just unplug. And I'm not great at that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not great at that. That's something I'm working on.
Yep.
But because I have that feeling of just always there's something to do. There's something I got to be on for. And sometimes I'm like, no, just unplug from the matrix and just let the phone on the charger, let it go outside, do something else, just enjoy the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just always like my phone, it's like, and I think my kids are good for that standpoint because they do give me the excuse to just go have fun, be a kid, play, I think, and that could be friends, that could be family, whoever that is for you, to have people around you that allow you
to.
I even like it for this, the podcast for this reason, because we're locked in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I haven't thought about what my email looks like or
Not at all.
if I got a message right now.
Not at
We're
all.
locked in.
Yeah.
And I think this is really cool. And I love this format for that reason, because it doesn't feel like the other ones feel so algorithmic.
Yeah.
It feels so much like I got to manufacture this thing the right way so it gets the attention, it keeps the attention, it converts, it's fine. You got to kind of know that stuff, but it doesn't feel as like real and genuine and just like you really can unplug. It feels like you're in the matrix when you're doing social media.
Yeah.
This feels like I'm coming out of the matrix. And what it feels like I'm doing is I'm actually creating outside of a matrix and then I'm feeding the content in the matrix.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like. Like Neo just dodging. Just dodging all the apps and the algorithms but I think I think this is why this is one of the number one mediums, because we're just, if we lost human connection and real conversations, we have gone to a bad place. I don't think that we're going to do that. And therefore I think podcasting is such a great platform.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's interesting too, they're seeing a trend now from the much younger folks where they're asking for flip phones because they don't want to be connected anymore.
Really? That's cool. I love that.
They're starting to see a huge uptick in flip phones.
Well, that's not what I see when I'm out in public from kids, because, and it actually makes me upset. I'm sorry if this upsets you if you're listening right now. Maybe you're one of these parents, hopefully not. But, you're out to dinner and you see this 5-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever it is, and they're on their damn iPad.
Yes.
And they're like this. Mm-hmm. And my kids have iPads too, but they have limits on them. They definitely don't take them out. They definitely don't have them open during dinner. Absolutely not. There's limitations to the technology. Right. They're 9 and 12.
Yeah.
But you see these kids and they're like this. And me and my girlfriend were out to dinner the other day, a couple weeks ago. Yeah. We saw this kid. He was probably 4, to be honest. I mean, and he's just glued to this thing. I mean, you could just see his mind just being like warped by this thing.
Yeah.
And then literally he like they take it away. And almost instantly, he throws a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
And the parents are like, yeah, he's always does this now. Da, da, da. And me and my girlfriend are like, yeah, dude, because you gave him a device that he's addicted to at 4 years old. Yeah. And now he can't get off it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think smartphones, iPads are some of the best tools in the world. But I also think they can be the most destructive tools in the world if they're not used properly. Absolutely. And it's just sad to see that from my standpoint. And the parents are young. Maybe they don't know. They haven't figured it out, whatever it is. I hope they figure it out. But I feel bad for the kid because he's already developing these addictive patterns.
Yep.
And it's also just teaching them, I think, instant gratification. If I'm bored for 1 second, I grab a device and I can go on that. And I think that is a bad thing. That is not good. Yep. We should be allowed to be bored, sit in silence, hang out without devices. We should be able to figure out how to fill that space with just empty space or a conversation or whatever it is. Yeah, whatever. Human connection.
Observation.
Sit there and look at shit. You know what I mean? Like just watch.
Yeah.
But now it's like, no, I'm bored, device. And I get lost on the device. And I just think that's a problem.
It is a big problem. And it's interesting because I was doing a little bit of research on Silicon Valley and the people that lead all the companies in Silicon Valley. Do you know that they send their children to a specific school that does not allow devices in the school?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is that real? That's true?
That's real. That's
Wow.
true. Yep. There's one school that they all send them to, and there's no devices allowed.
Interesting.
So they already know, because the people that let me go back when I remember at one of my companies, we were working with the founders of Candy Crush,
Wow.
because these companies of these games and devices, they have the best neuroscientists on their team
Is that right?
who understand the brain.
Wow.
They know how to program it. The dings, the sound, the moment of the sound, the visual, so that you are connected.
Wow.
And back then, before all of this exploded, we were working with the leaders of Candy Crush, and that's where we learned that, they got the best neuroscientists in there, and they think about how the brain works, and everything they do is very calculated.
That's wild.
So whether it's Meta or whether it's any company, they know exactly what they're doing.
Well, it makes so much sense because, like, when you're playing Connect 4, you don't get or Candyland. Like, you're not getting like, oh my God, I can't stop playing this.
Right.
But on the devices, there's something being engineered there where
Absolutely.
it's gamification or whatever it is. That's just like, it's the dopamine hit. They have the next thing that you hit. And it's like,
Yeah. And that's what we were looking at gamification for our development series.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You almost have to.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that really is a trend that's going away? Do you think less people are going to be on their devices as kids?
No, I disagree.
I too.
I think that, you're seeing some kickback on AI. People are like, I'm sick of AI. There's just some, again, but AI is here to stay.
For sure.
It depends on how you're going to use it.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, and you called out on me, not for content anymore. I'll read all my content in AI and I'll put it into sentences, but don't change my words.
Yeah, at the minimum, give it, very specific instructions, stories,
Absolutely.
experiences. It can help you, but it can't just, hey, do
but it
this.
can't be the content.
It can't be the content, yeah.
Right. And I think, as you said, that people are craving this type of experience, like this person to person. And it's so uncomfortable for those, especially for a 4-year-old who's on the device all the time, to go and learn how to play with other kids. It's got to be really uncomfortable for them. And I think that's sad for the child, like you said. It's really sad for them.
It is.
Because they're not learning the skills.
Yeah.
So we're doing ourselves a disservice, but someone like yourself and people that I know and myself, we're like, hey, we're not going to let this impact our lives. We're going to focus on what's important, which is this right here.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that's a noble cause these days.
Well, it's like, where do you see it going then? If we just continued the devices, if it's not going to go away, well, how do you see our generations evolving?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question.
Because it's like, it's not going to, because, technology wins. It's undefeated.
Absolutely.
It'll just keep getting better. Humans will keep doing it. We'll keep building better shit. That's what we do. And it just seems like people will go towards it. Now, could there be some movement, anti-whatever? Yes, but most people are going to go to the path least resisted.
Absolutely.
They're not going to fight it that long.
Absolutely.
And the other element is, like, it's almost hard to exist in society now unless you have a smartphone or a device or whatever it is. So it's almost becoming to the point where it's like, I don't know, do we just become cyborgs at a certain point?
I don't know. And the people that say, I don't use any of that stuff because I'm not going to be someone who's using the data center. I'm like, every time you pick up your phone, you're using the data center.
Yeah.
I mean, don't fool yourself that you're special, because you're doing the same thing we all are doing.
For sure.
Some of us just use it differently.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge to answer that question that I see now and think about for the future is that people believe what they read. And what they read and what they share out, like they read something and they'll share it out. Like on Facebook, they read it, share it. Like, oh, look at this. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And I actually had someone that I know who was doing that a lot. And I said, did you ever go back and look to make sure that this was true? Because it seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it's true because it's out there. I'm like, and so I did some research and I said, well, actually, this is not true. And they blew up at me.
Wow.
And that's, I think, the problem.
Yeah.
Is that there is, as you said, ego and rightness attached to me having this view that I align with. And if it's not true, I'm going to tell you that you're stupid and you're wrong, that you don't get it. without even looking at the data and facts. And I think that's the most terrifying thing that we have going on right now.
And that's the political problem too, where you see like, it's like regardless of who, what are the facts, the data, what really should be done. It's just like, I'm on this side, you're on that side, you're wrong, you're stupid. I'm on this side, you're on this side, you're stupid, you're wrong. Yeah. It's like, when you talk to most people have a pretty good level-headedness about them. Yeah. And we seem to kind of come to a common ground. Sure. Like, maybe we have a little different areas of how we get there. Right. But there's a pretty good common ground, like taking care of our people, good values. And I think people want to see the right things being done. But it's like from a political
Yeah. But sometimes the loudest voices are the ones that are not looking at data and facts. They're not looking, underneath the cover to see what's truly there. Yeah. And I think that's the big challenge that we have. So unless we start having people be honest and challenge those things and are willing to come to the table to have conversations, I think it's going to be a problem going forward. I really do.
I thought about running for political office for
for
that reason. Just, I mean, not seriously, but I'm just like kind of time to time I think about it. Yeah. Not saying I ever will, but I just sometimes think about it because it would be nice to run and really just do it for the people. Yep. And be the honest person that can see both sides. Yep. And because I don't think to me, there shouldn't be parties. It's just we're people, we're human, we're Americans, and it'd be fun to serve. It'd be cool to serve and do the right thing.
Yeah. To do the right thing. Yeah. With the right intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because you feel like it would help your country or city or whatever you're running for
be better. Absolutely. Yeah. To be better. Yeah. So, Alex, we've talked about a lot of different things. And we started off talking about kind of what you do, and we've talked about the founders. Is there anything, before I have a couple closing questions for you, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to share? Because we've been kind of across the board, but I'm sure there's some things that you might be churning in your mind that you want to share with everyone today.
I was great with talking about whatever the hell you want to talk about, Barbara. I'm along for the ride today. I'm good to talk about anything. And what I love about, again, this setting, and usually how it goes in the show is there's some talking points, but then usually we can go off on some things that weren't planned, that weren't scripted, that were just, hey, I
put my notes away. I took my glasses off and put my notes away. I'm like, we're going to go with it.
That's how it should. That's how it should be. So I was saying, even when I'm prepping with clients for their podcasts, it's like, hey, have a guide, have an outline, know where to go, have a little bit of structure, have your opening strong, but then after that, let it flow. Yeah. Let the conversation go. Yeah. And I think we've done that.
Great. Yeah. So when we came in today, you said, well, this could be a great success or it could be a great failure. Where do you think we landed?
I think it was a success. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys let us know. Drop a comment, let us know. But, I think it's something different. Just something, again, it's like, how do you mix things up? How do you keep it fresh? How do you got to try different things where you don't know. So I'm sure there'll be some people listening that will be like, oh, this is not the usual show. I'm not so interested. And the other people will be like, this is kind of cool. It's something different.
I don't know. I think that coming back to the founder who's driving a lot of this and understanding how you're thinking, I think it's pretty exciting, actually, to understand all of that. Yeah. So let me ask, if people want to reach out to you and learn more and have a conversation, how do they do that,
Ooh,
Alex?
Look at Barbara with the closing CTA. Wow, stepping up her game. LinkedIn, I'm definitely on there daily pretty much. Impacts.com is where we build in-house content teams. And then podcastbuilders.com is the podcast company. So those would be the three things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the conversation today. Thank you for letting me come and interview you today. Yeah. Because like I said, I have been watching you and I just think that there's a lot of interesting stuff going on behind the scenes. And you've brought forth a lot of your internal thoughts. And now it's like, wow, now when I watch your content, I have a whole different perspective on it. So I appreciate you sharing all that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming up with a novel idea and for being willing to sit across the chair and be the interviewer for once. It was a nice change of pace.
Great. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Barbara.